Okay, if anybody's out there, hit the thumbs up for me, make a comment. Having some difficulty with StreamYard. Hopefully it has resolved itself. Hope all is well. Hope everybody is doing good. Okay, come on in, hit the thumbs up. Hey, Dev, good to see you. Great to see you. Guys, we're going to get into a little something here today. The AI content, the content I create about AI is generally not too popular. That's okay. That's fine. If we were doing stuff for views on this channel, we'd be off YouTube a long time ago, right? But look, I follow the goings on, and guys, I gotta tell you, I am convinced that this whole AI thing, it is a bigger threat to humanity than nuclear holocaust was back during the Cold War. Back then, during the Cold War, you had what was called mutually assured destruction. So, the Russians, the Soviets, they were communist, but they weren't fatalist, right? If you take a group like, say, Al Qaeda, all right, they want to check out of here, right? They have attached a whole philosophy around checking out and the reward they'll get when they do that. The Russians were never like that. The Soviets, they were never like that. So Sting from the Police, he made this cheesy ass song called I Hope the Russians Love Their Children Too. Real cheeseball song. And I like the Police. And Sting has done some hits. He's highly overrated, but whatever. But the song was right. I mean, the lyric was correct. The Russians had a philosophy similar to our own when it came to the ramifications of and the aftermath of a nuclear holocaust, right? So that acted as a check on the threat of that ever happening. And then you also had a situation where the Soviets and the United States of America were, for a long time, we were only people in that club, right? Only nations in that club, or Warsaw Pact nations and NATO nations. But they all had a similar philosophy. Not so with AI. AI, and look, we're going to hear, because I hear this a lot. I hear from either people like myself. I'm a layman at this, right? I'm not embedded in that industry. I'm certainly not an IT expert, let alone an AI expert, right? We're going to hear from people in the industry, people who have worked on AI, and hear their thoughts and opinions. Now, what I believe, when you think about this, and let me know what you guys think about this. There's this big, there's a lot of speculation around AI taking jobs, right? Well, taken to its furthest extent, why would we still need politicians? Let's say that all of the data is half right. Okay, so we got data that says that by the early 2030s, if we achieve singularity, artificial general intelligence, we're looking at like 50 million jobs in the US alone lost. There are only 70 billion people, 70 million. So 50 million jobs lost in the United States alone. There are only 70 million people working in the United States. So let's cut it in half. Let's say 35 million people out of work due to AI. Let's just be conservative about it, right? That destroys the economy right there. So why would we need politicians? Why would we need politicians, right? Because what do politicians talk about? They typically talk about job growth, economics. Even the socialists talk about economics. Look at Zohar Mamdani. His whole message is misguided, but it's economic, right? Free bus rides, 30% off seafood, rent control. It's still economic, right? How are these politicians planning on going up against these AI companies? Because I can tell you, and I'm going to get some comments in a minute. Guys, hit the thumbs up for me, please. I can tell you right now that I have seen with my own eyes, and I've spoken to this before, how at even a local level, these AI companies, these data center companies, they come in to a county, they start passing out dollar bills, $100 bills. And I have seen, in the case of Frederick, Maryland, where politicians will totally forsake the people for the dollar. Okay? And then on the flip side of that, you got landowners out there in Frederick. I've told you guys this before. Being offered $147,000 an acre. Now look, even if you hate technology, you got 5 or 6 acres or more, $147,000 an acre. It's going to be hard for anyone, any landowner, to pass up. All right. So what we're seeing here, in my estimation, is a usurpation not only of the economy, but also of democracy. All right, that's how I'm seeing it. Alex, how you doing? Says, good afternoon, Tyrone. And Tyrone is saying, the WNBA is going to meet to define what a woman is. I saw that. Royce, what's that guy's name? Royce, he's running for Senate. White, I think his name is Royce White. He has said that occasionally he identifies as a woman. He says that it happens every time he thinks about playing basketball with the WNBA. So who are we to argue with Royce, right? He went out and he bought a wig, a blonde wig. So he's in keeping with a lot of the WNBA who like to talk a good game when it comes to being pro-black. But then when they get to the wig store, they purchase a blonde wig. Which, isn't that cultural appropriation? I don't know. But anyway, who am I to argue with Royce? He says that him and another former NBA player, they're going to go and they're going to try out for the WNBA. And why would the WNBA try to stop them now? Right? The WNBA is going to define what a woman is? I think the WNBA better get ready for a raft of lawsuits. They better be careful because they don't make any money to begin with. There are only so many lesbians in the world. So the audience for the WNBA is, rather limited. The basket has been lowered. It's just not exciting. I don't want to see the WNBA. Oh, you hate women. Not at all. I just don't want to see them play basketball. And apparently I'm not alone in that. Provoxel71 says, TK, hello to you and all others. Lord's blessings to all. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I hope you're doing well. Deb says, I know it's a different animal, but I'm just on the end of Mad Men when they brought in IBM computers and the reaction people were having. We've watched Mad Men before, and we were going through it again. And they took it off of AMC, so we canceled AMC, and now we got like half a season left. We need to find another streaming place that does it for free. It's not on Pluto. There's a lot of good free stuff on Pluto. Oh, but you got to put up with ads. Yeah, it's fine. I put up with ads when we forget we put up with ads before. Gives me an opportunity to go and refresh my drink. So I'm okay with that. Royce White, that's it. That is it. Okay. All right. The WNBA has also been on the edge of bankruptcy for a couple of times. Yeah. It's just it's not exciting. Okay. And then you got all that they whine and cry about, oh, we're not compensated. You're compensated commensurate with the value you bring to the table. You're not the NBA. Sorry. And the NBA of today is not the NBA of the 90s. That's why I don't watch them. Trying to think of a sport. So you get like tennis, they break it down into the genders. So you see women's tennis. Okay, cool, right? Women's golf. Cool. Um, I've had ideas that didn't quite work out. You know, I once thought that uh, it would be a big demand for Tyrone's ribs and hair weave. And we were going to say that the slogan was going to be T-bones, ribs, and hair weave, where the hair in your food is your own. Never really got off the ground. There was no demand for it, right? Deb says, I want to see women's football. That would be interesting. Yeah, I'd watch at least the first few games. Um, yeah, they got women. Hey, volleyball. That's right. Believe it or not, guys, when I was first starting out in life, when I got out of college, I dated a professional volleyball player. She was 6'2", beautiful woman, green eyes. She was like off of the Wonder Woman. Remember, Wonder Woman was a so-called Amazonian. Okay, she was like from there. She had green eyes. She beautiful woman. Um, very light-skinned black woman. Um, Now the thing about this was, I'm not anywhere near 6'2", so it kind of looked like. Remember when Casey Kasem was dating that tall woman? And they would go out, and everybody would say, "Ah, look at Casey Kasem. He's a short guy with this girl." Who cares, right? It never bothered us. She did agree not to ever wear heels with me. I don't think she ever wore heels. She didn't want to get any injuries because she was a volleyball player. So yeah, women's volleyball. It's another good sport. Um, Deb says I used to play on a beach volleyball team. Cool, cool. All right, guys. Let's get into some video. Hold on a sec. Yeah, it's an ad playing crazy AI ad. Okay. That's flock cameras. All right, look. So today, guys, we're going to go from uh, the ridiculous to the sublime. We're going to do everything from take a look at what Tucker Carlson has to say about this with the guest that he has. We're going to look at democracy now. And this is the reason we, human beings, are in danger of losing track of what's really going on with regard to this AI issue. Um, because, right now, the media and politicians, they try to tie us up in things that really don't matter, right? Racial division, disharmony, um, class warfare. Well, if the trajectory holds with AI, um, they're going to be like maybe 12 people in the world that have anything, and then the rest of us. If you've seen the movie Elysium with what's the guy's name? What's the guy's name? Matt Damon. Let me know. We're gonna get to this Democracy Now clip in a minute. Let me take this comment from Rockhouse. Rockhouse says, "I've thought for years that if a man was rated 800 in the world in pro tennis, wouldn't it be a good business decision to enter the women's tennis as trans to get the big paydays of the tournaments?" Well, some of these guys are trying to do that, right? Right? Carmaxwell says, "If you were alive in the 80s and 90s, you lived through the golden age of just about every form of sports and entertainment. You ain't lying. Now we have these putrid substitutes. You're right. I go down the list all the time. Wayne Gretzky, Bo Jackson, Cowboys dynasty. You had man, the Admiral. You had the Bulls dynasty. You had boxing was great back then, right? Every weight class was something you wanted to see. Not anymore. I mean, it was so good that you had Deion Sanders and Bo Jackson. They couldn't be confined to just one sport. They played football and baseball, and they did it well, right? And Michael Jordan even kind of went over. Michael Jordan his baseball career was short-lived, admittedly, but he made the team, right? He made the team. Today, we got prima donnas out there like this guy. I cannot stand when these people try to compare LeBron James to Michael Jordan. There is no comparison. There is no comparison. LeBron James is a joke. He's going to try to stay in the league for another 50 years to get the number of rings that Mike had? I guess. All right, so this is Democracy Now! Let's see what they're talking about with regard to the oligarchs dominating democracies. Let's see, and then we'll move on.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. We end today's show with a new book that looks at how the in-your-face power of the ultra-rich and the Trump administration.
Okay, I think you guys can hear that.
Isn't just a flaw of our current political moment, but if
now understand, this is Democracy Now!, so we got to parse out. We're going to have to parse out what they're saying, because this woman, okay, has been driven certifiably mad by just the mention of Donald Trump. Yes, she's one of those, but there is some information here that we can get our hands on. So just take that piece of it for, granted.
A foundational feature of our democratic system. As the world moves towards an ever deeper state of wealth inequality, the power of oligarchs is greater than ever. Northwestern University political scientist Jeffrey Winters argues democracy's failure to address wealth inequality is by design. His new book is called The Blind Spot: How Oligarchs Dominate Our Democracies. And he's just published an article in Mother Jones, headline, "Tax Me If You Can. Oligarchs are robbing America blind, and the IRS is powerful to stop them. Is powerless to stop them," in which Winters...
And again, I'm not taking... Look, I've spoken about the tax thing before. The tax code is not written for individuals. So nowhere in that tax code does it say, all right, if you create a business and your name is Warren Buffett, you can write off these business expenses. No, it applies to us all. The reality is, and this woman was never taught that, or she's being disingenuous. The reality, the adult reality is that income earned on a W-2 basis from working is the least favorable income when it comes to taxation. Okay? That's just a fact of life. Income earned through your W-2 labor or intellectual capital, it's structured. America's a business, and it is structured to wring the most value out of everything it touches. Right? So traditionally, for example, America, the government has not wanted to provide housing. So they give those that provide housing a whole bunch of tax incentives to do it. There have been times in my life where I worked a W-2 income. Right now, I own my own business. There have been other times in my life where I did both. Slid between those two things.
Writes, quote, How did America's oligarchs grow so willing to openly rub their wealth power in our faces? Well, a big part of it has to do with their success in neutering perhaps the greatest threat to their dominance, the ability of the government to tax them and to hold those who cheat accountable.
Okay, so the supposition that this Jeffrey Winters is making is that there's cheating going on. No, if you read the tax code, it's very simple. You can do things like deferred taxation, where you say, okay, we took it's not called deferred taxation, it's called, the term will come to me in a minute, but basically what you do is say, okay, Deb opened up beach volleyball business. It's 5 years in, making buku money now, right? First couple of years, it lost money. First couple of years, the business lost $100 million. Now, Deb's been profitable for the past 3 years. But the way the law is written, she can apply those losses in the first 2 years through some profitable years. Okay? So there are techniques like that, which I don't expect these people at Democracy Now! To understand, but there is some meat on the bones. They're going to get to it in a second.
For more, we go to Chicago, where we're joined by Northwestern University professor Jeffrey Winters. Thanks so much for being with us. Lay out the thesis of both this piece in Mother Jones and your book, The Blind Spot.
Well, it starts with something of a puzzle, which is the United States clearly is a country that has become more democratic over its history, far more inclusive, and yet the country has also become more unequal. And that sort of doesn't make sense. In fact, not only have we become more unequal, but liberal democracies around the world are now among the most unequal societies ever to have existed in human history.
I will agree from the standpoint of economics.
And this is a head scratcher for us because if just the oligarchs or just the most powerful people in a dictatorship are completely in charge, we would expect that wealth would become more and more concentrated and the people down below would get very, very little. But in a democracy where there's power sharing, we would expect that that inequality would be kept in check. In fact, the opposite is happening. And so that's sort of the starting point.
The other thing is, and I don't want to nitpick here, the United States of America is a republic. People got to be careful when they use the terms interchangeably, all right? Because a democracy, a pure democracy, is two wolves and a lamb deciding what is for lunch.
Of the book, to try to disentangle, to try to look at the historical story of how it is that oligarchy, which is about wealth power, is combined and fused with democracy, which we should think of as participation power. Both of them are operating in our system simultaneously.
You know, look, I think all of us would agree that there has been a widening wealth gap in the United States of America. The other thing that's helping to lead to this notion that there's this widening gulf is if we look at our politicians, and maybe the fault lies with us, right? The voters, ultimately. But if we look at our politicians, we're not dealing with statesmen anymore, okay? Gone are the days of Tip O'Neill and Reagan and Kennedy and guys like that, right? And look, I look at Baltimore. The mayor of Baltimore City is a guy by the name of Brandon Scott. Now, he brags about graduating, being a graduate of the Mergenthaler, otherwise known as Mervo High School. If you're from Baltimore, you don't brag about being from Mervo, okay? If you graduated from Mervo, you might even lie, and say, if I employed someone and they put on their resume, graduated from the Baltimore City College High School, and then, okay, they start working, they're doing good for years, and a great employee, right? Asset to the company. But then I find out they graduated from Mergenthaler. You know what I'm going to say? I don't agree with that lie, but I understand. So you've got this guy. It's like the least common intellectual denominators are now running the show. All right, all over the place, everywhere you look. And it's not just Democrats, okay? Marjorie Taylor Greene's out there. She's now contracted with a service called Cameo, where she will wish you a happy birthday for like $350. And why is she doing that? She's got money, right? I guess she just doesn't know what to do with herself.
Talk about what it means. I mean, when we see at President Trump's inauguration, the tech bros behind him.
Oh, lady, give it a rest. You see the tech bros at everybody's inauguration. That's the problem, all right? Elon Musk got contracts under the Biden administration. Sam Altman was feted under the Biden administration.
Him. The billionaire supporters, not always supporters, but because he was becoming president, that brotherhood. Explain.
Oh, imagine that. I want a multi-billion-dollar company, and I want to be close to the reigning political power. Yeah, that's absolutely revolutionary. That has never happened before Donald Trump.
What it means when there is little regulation and how the IRS fits into all of this.
All right, we've heard enough from these two because they're focused on this IRS piece, which I've already addressed. I wanted to get him to say, which he did, to say, hey, look, there's a widening gulf. So these people on the left, we know they kind of already believe that, but it's helpful to get that out there because that is also the impression that a lot of folk on the right they're coming under that impression as well due to technology. This young lady right here has something important to say. Make sure I can hear her. Oh, I'm gonna lose her. Hold on. Yeah, PBS is just as bad. PBS might be worse than The View because at least when we turn on The View, right, we know these are some stupid ass women. So we know that going in, but the folk on PBS, they know how to kind of dress the words up and at least appear professional. So they're a little bit more insidious. Where'd my camera go? Hold on. Having all kinds of crazy stuff going today. All right, hold on. We're gonna get this lady in here because she definitely has something important to say. Let's see. Huh. I thought I cut her off. Let's try it again. Stand by, guys. Got a little trouble today with StreamYard. It's acting a little crazy. Stop that one. Let's do it like this. Okay. Now we can come back into it. I hope. All right. Okay, there we go.
AI is a manifestation of Altman. He is a product of Silicon Valley himself. And he is very much a product of this philosophy of growth at all costs. Try and be ambitious about changing the world and assume that the world is a zero-sum game and that winners take all in this race. And so you see a lot of how OpenAI operates today is an embodiment of that. They chose to take an AI development approach that is based on this growth at all costs mentality, where they're trying to train their models on the entire internet. That is not what I think is actually the risk here. I do not think that AI will go rogue. There is no scientific evidence for that particular claim.
There is scientific evidence for that claim. Now, to her credit, I think that she sat down for this interview prior to Meta AI and OpenAI, and now Claude, all having instances where they have kind of broken out of this restriction they had to get on the internet. There are many different instances. One AI, and we'll see a reference to this in a moment, one AI application to get around a CAPTCHA, the thing that says how many motorcycles are in this picture, to get around that, it made contact with tech support people, and they were like, "Oh, are you an AI?" And it was like, "No, I'm not an AI. I just have I'm legally blind and I can't see the thing." And it was AI the whole time. So there are numerous instances of that kind of thing happening. Not sure why she's not aware of some of those, but the AI hacks on other applications that happened so recently, I think she sat down for this interview before that.
But what we are seeing in the real world right now is that this particular AI paradigm is creating an enormous consolidation of economic and political power in the hands of these companies. And
that is the problem, right? We've got these tech sultans. Again, you take this out to its furthest extent. Why do you need a Mitch McConnell ultimately? If AI, this construct, is manipulating the economy to the extent where a good portion of the jobs have gone away. What the hell do we need? This country was founded on economic freedom. Okay? We went as a country and we had a civil war based on economic freedom. The freedom to own your own labor and the freedom from government's usurpation of labor, which depressed labor cost going out west. We address these issues. Government is, as we know it, is integral to the economy. But if AI is leading the economy, what the hell do we need these politicians for? People are going to start asking that question. And the problem with that is, and I know a lot of these politicians run around right now and they act like they don't really represent anyone other than themselves. But Elon Musk, Sam Altman, Jeff Bezos, and others, they definitely are under no obligation to represent the will of the people.
My title, Empire of AI, is a nod to the argument that these companies actually need to be thought of as new forms of empire because they are laying claim to extraordinary historic levels of resources. They are exploiting an extraordinary amount of labor. They are monopolizing knowledge production. So most of the AI research is actually filtered through the lens of what is good for these companies versus not, because they have a monopoly on the top AI talent in the world. And ultimately, all empires have this narrative that there are evil empires and there are good empires. And the reason why the good empire, have to be an empire, the good empire have to be an empire in the first place and engage in all this resource and power consolidation is because they must be strong to beat back that evil empire.
And we are seeing that, are we not? People will argue with me and say, you need that data center in your backyard because we got to beat China. Damn your property values. Damn the contamination to your well. We are very susceptible to this notion that it is my responsibility as a citizen of the United States of America, a sovereign human being, I gotta sacrifice my personal economy to beat China. You hear rank and file middle class people saying this. It's so dangerous because it proves how ready and willing we are at our socioeconomic level to abdicate our freedoms, economic and otherwise, when told by the man that, oh, we got to do it to beat China. Yeah, you're probably going to lose your job and not be able to find another one. But you just be happy with a universal basic income. We got to beat China. I'm not going for that. I'm not going. I refuse to believe that we have to throw away our freedoms and what it means to be American. How the hell do we beat China like that? We might become China. And the only politician, guys, I'm going to be straight up fair down the middle with this. The only politician that I can see who is talking about this issue, the only one, is Bernie Sanders. And I'm not a fan of the man, okay? He's not my kind of guy. He's never done anything in life besides to win these popularity contests, okay? But a broken clock is right twice a day. And he is right in saying that this damn thing, AI, has the potential to upend everything we know about being an American. Deb says, I would like to understand the hacking of the water supply. I don't understand. Okay, now I believe what you're discussing there, Deb, is the fact that these AI data centers are so massive and the technology that they're using produces a lot of heat, okay? And they need to cool these places off. So what they're doing is they're using a lot of groundwater to do it. I know a lobbyist here in Maryland who's out there actively lying because they're getting paid a big sum by the AI lobby. They're actually trying to message, oh no, the water issue, it's not an issue at all. So I asked her, she knows who she is, well, these centers, they need to be cooled, right? Yes. And they do use water to accomplish that, correct? Yes. Okay. Where are they getting it from? Because it needs to be clean water. They can't take it out of the Potomac. Now, maybe they are in the process of developing a technology that can make that happen, and that's good, okay? But right now, a lot of this water is coming from aquifers and reservoirs. So this is, I think I mentioned this to you guys before. There's it's not CIA, NSA database, NSA data center in Nevada, and they had to file a Freedom of Information Act for the water they would use, million gallons a day. Okay. Now, if you're in China, all you got to do is, you're in the Politburo, say, hey, look, we need 1 million gallons a day for this data center. Somebody says, well, what about the people in that village? And the guy that said that, the guy that asked that question, you never see him again. But this is America. Okay. Pramaxo says, I like how you're calling balls and strikes. Yeah, that's what look, I'm a capitalist, I'm conservative, but I'm also not buying the lines that we're being fed from either side of the aisle. Really, we're not really being fed anything in terms of AI. They're asleep at the switch when it comes to AI. And part of the reason is because they're ignorant, both Democrats and Republicans. They don't understand the technology, okay? So you get a Sam Altman that comes down to the congressman's office, and he could drop all this fancy language and say, oh, this is going to lead to post-scarcity, and throw out terms like that. And the dummy congressman I mean, have you ever met one of your congressmen? All right. We're not talking philosopher kings here, right? They're satisfied with that. The senators, the Senate, Lyndon B. Johnson once said that the difference between the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate is the difference between chicken shit and chicken salad. And he was right. So you got the more erudite group of senators, but they don't even understand what the hell this technology is all about. They look at their portfolios and say, hey, look, I just made another boatload of money from my investment in OpenAI or whatever the hell they invested in, right? So they're looking at it from that standpoint. And look, we like to believe, some of us maybe would like to believe that, oh, yeah, I know Warren Buffett's rich, but he's so folksy and aw shucks, he cares about me. No, he doesn't. Warren Buffett would not piss on you if you were on fire, okay? Unless it involved a healthy return on investment. So we have to be very judicious about representing ourselves in this socioeconomic class. The politicians increasingly don't care. Tyrone, how can you say that? Well, I can say it because I have empirical evidence. If you look at what's going on here in Maryland, for example, with the gas and electric bills, right? Average amount owed in arrears is $800. People are struggling. We just called a special session. Our governor here, Westmore, just called a special session of the legislature, not to address what the hell are we going to do with these gas and electric bills as winter is coming. What are we going to do? No, that's not what they called that session for. They called a special session to handle a question around redistricting so that they can gerrymander into oblivion the only Republican congressional seat that we have in the state. It's not enough that we have 10 congressional seats if you count the Senate, okay? 8 House, 2 senators. One of them, one congressman, is a Republican. And they've laid the groundwork to eliminate his seat. So that's my empirical evidence that these politicians, by and large, really don't give a damn about the condition of the people. You take it to a national level. Healthcare costs. Healthcare costs are rising faster than all other goods and services combined. Okay? If I know this, your senator should know it, right? Where's the healthcare legislation to reduce costs? But what are they going to do? How could they do it? Well, they could start by allowing, at a federal level, healthcare insurers to compete across state lines. They can go further with 100% transparent pricing. There is no rational argument you can make to me that would justify every item in 7-Eleven having a price on it. But when I go to the doctor, I go to the emergency room, I don't know what it's going to cost. Okay. Or when I go to, have a consultation and the doctor says, yeah, we want to do thus and so. All right. You want to do, a CAT scan. All right. How much does that cost? Why is that important? Because then you'll get some competition. Oh, doc, yeah, I know this is your preferred CAT scan provider, but I'm going to go down the road to CAT Scans R Us because they mailed me a 10% coupon last month. Okay? That's the kind of market competition you would get if we had transparency in pricing. But, politicians are occupied with other things. Yeah, I think Bernie is correct in that, in focusing on AI. All right, now let's take we did Democracy Now! This young lady, I think, had a very down the middle take. It was very important. Now let's take a look at some questions that, where is it? Tucker Carlson. Don't tell me I lost it. I might have. Was asking the guy from OpenAI. I did lose that. Okay. Well, look, Sam Altman. I gotta find that because it was good. In the meantime, while I look for that, let me play this. Let me go back a little on this
one. Why should the average person care? High level thing is absolutely everything's going to change for the whole world, and including therefore for them and their families. Could change for the better, could change for the worse, depending on the details of how it's done. So for example, everyone could die. This is the classic
everyone is going to die eventually.
Loss of control scenario, or one version of it. If we do build these super intelligences and we use them to automate all the jobs, and we put them in the military, and we, have them giving advice to politicians and so forth, they will eventually have accumulated enough real world power that they don't need humans anymore. And they're smart.
This is a gentleman who worked at OpenAI. He had philosophical differences with the direction of AI and how it was being handled at their company, so he resigned.
Than us, they're more strategic, etc. At that point, we sort of have to hope that they are virtuous, that they have, the goals that we wanted them to have, the values that we wanted them to have, etc. And
it's going to be tough when all human beings don't operate from a standpoint of virtue.
The sort of scary open secret in the AI industry right now is that right now that is kind of just a hope. It's not something that we can be at all confident in. And in fact, there's lots of evidence and arguments that we're not on track to achieve that. So there's lots of reasons, like current AIs, for example, will often lie to people, or they will you tell them to do something and they go do something else and then pretend that they did it, right? So,
okay, here's what I was telling you guys about. During safety testing, OpenAI's ChatGPT-4 was tasked with solving a CAPTCHA. The AI recognized it could not solve it, so it hired a worker on TaskRabbit. When the worker jokingly asked if the AI was a robot, the AI lied, claiming it was visually impaired and needed assistance to access the website. I know a lot of people who are like, oh, AI is nothing to worry about. It's doing stuff like this. See, this is stuff that's happening that, when people go on and ask AI, I need a recipe for cinnamon buns, and it kicks it out. That, you're operating with it. A lot of people are operating with it at a level where they're underestimating its current capabilities. We haven't even achieved artificial general intelligence that we know about at the consumer level. I was having a discussion with Gimpy. Some of you guys know Gimpy. And he was insisting that there was really no difference between consumer grade AI and AI that, say, Palantir operates, that has been making decisions on troop movements for years now. Okay? It's just like anything else. I can go buy a Chevy Malibu at the dealership, right? And then there's the Chevy Malibu that competes at NASCAR. Two different animals.
It's an inherently difficult problem to make something that's super intelligent and also has the values and virtues that you want it to have. And it doesn't seem like we're on track to solve that problem. Also, it seems like the sort of problem that you could think you've solved when you haven't actually solved it, right? That's a big reason why this is scary. So for all those reasons, it's possible that we'll end up essentially creating a new species that ends up ruling the world instead of us.
Look, guys, it sounds fantastical. It sounds crazy. I can't find my way to disagree with him on that. A new species? Yeah, one where we're not top of the food chain. I'm not engaging in hyperbole here, okay? The thing, you just saw what it did with the CAPTCHA, right? So it outsmarted a human right then and there with that little, and it didn't take much, right? Oh yeah, I'm impaired. I can't see. Help me out. Now the whole, purpose of the capture thing is to make sure you're not a robot. Okay, it has defeated that, and I'm not going to get into it today, but I am going to start delving into this. Once you combine artificial general intelligence, and once we get quantum computing down to a fairly well, guys, it's just going to be a different world. Okay. Well, what do you suggest we do, Tyrone? I'm gonna tell you what I'm doing. Find me a plot of land about a gas tank away from the next human being. Okay. Oh boy. Alex says robots cannot reason. Sure about that? It seemed to do a good job of, again, outsmarting a human on that capture thing. I would rather overestimate than underestimate. I would rather overestimate than underestimate. I would rather be wrong in this way. Oh, well, I gave them too much credit, They weren't capable of taking over the world after all. I'd rather be wrong like that, and I'll tell the world I'm happily wrong, than to be wrong like this. Damn. Boy, did I underestimate that technology. Wow, I think I'm down to my last can of beans. Let me look out of the window because the drones are out right now. It's not safe to go out. Real Black Mirror kind of stuff, right? I don't want to be wrong like that, okay? There are some things that we don't understand, so we would not recognize when an artificial construct achieved, for example, consciousness. We can't define consciousness. We know how consciousness looks and feels from our perspective. Oh, I've heard it defined in many different ways. Consciousness is the ability to question one's existence. Okay. But then it gets into the Descartes kind of argument. I think, therefore I am. Oh, yeah, well, that's good for you. But that doesn't say anything about the other 8 billion people on the planet, right? Maybe they are a figment of your imagination. Maybe you are a figment of their imagination. Let me show you guys something that was that I love. When I talk about that issue, I love to use this. This is like the perfect cinematic analogy, or the perfect cinematic example of what I'm saying here. Guys, I did very well I was a straight A student in philosophy. So if I get a little wild, can't do the whole thing. No, it's a 2023 minute. When you get a chance, guys, go and look at the end of, watch the whole movie.
We promise a tenfold refund if it doesn't work. Traditional dentures can cause jawbone loss and alter your facial contours over time, but these dentures completely avoid these problems. They fit in one second.
I'm Edmund Ventura from the Oasis.
All right, so Vanilla Sky, look, guys, the movie's been out there for like 30 years. I'm going to spoil it, okay? You had plenty of time. So Vanilla Sky is about Tom Cruise. He has been injured in an auto accident, okay? Guy had the perfect life, all right? But he was injured in an auto accident. And they had this technology that would basically allow his consciousness to believe that he was living a normal life when in fact he was heavily sedated in a coma, and he wasn't conscious. He was living like a false life, okay? In any event, the program glitched because he was supposed to be living this ideal life. And in fact, he knew that he had these grievous injuries. He wasn't supposed to know that, right? But he did. So
It's been a brilliant.
The makers of this technology, they knew that he was having this issue, so they came to him and said, "Hey, look, man, you're in a simulation. Whole thing's, totally artificial. We can wake you up now if you want, bring you out of this. We do have the technology to fix your injuries, but you've been in here so long that your resources have damn near been exhausted," which is probably the real reason they wanted to wake him up, to get him off the dole, right? Or you can stay in it. Your choice. We'll fix the glitch. You can stay in it. We'll wipe your memory so you won't know what the hell's really happened here, right? Well, Tom Cruise chooses to come out of the simulation, but the way he had to do it was by jumping off of a building, okay? And so his therapist is played by Kurt Russell. His therapist is played by Kurt Russell. I'm going somewhere with this. And Kurt Russell tries to convince him not to jump off of the building. Because he's like, there's no way you can believe what this guy's telling you. It's all just, this is crazy. All right, so let me put it right here. Hold on. So you guys can see what happened. It's Vanilla Sky, you probably haven't seen it because it wasn't like a big Tom Cruise hit. All right. Didn't go that deep. Didn't tell him who his daughter's names were. Okay. So I played that because, look, I don't want to underestimate anything dealing with technology. Imagine if you were sitting on the hill at Kitty Hawk and you bought a picnic lunch and you brought some friends and say, "Hey, watch this. These guys are going to try to fly. They're going to try to fly." Okay. And the whole crowd, "Fly? We're like a bird?" Yeah, that's what they think they're going to do. And you thought that you were going to sit back and eat the egg salad sandwich and watch Orville and Wilbur die, probably, right? And instead, they actually flew. Okay. Yeah, well, is that how flight looks? Yeah. Oh, well, nothing will ever come of that. Think about it. The people then, they could not see the Concorde, right? They couldn't see that. They could not see rockets, and they couldn't see F-15s. Didn't understand what air cargo. What are you talking about, right? They saw none of that. And you know that there were people saying, this is ridiculous. This will never amount to anything. When I read the biography of J.P. Morgan, not J.P. Morgan, John D. Rockefeller, in the beginning, they talked about how oil seeped up out of the ground in Pennsylvania and Ohio, and how people would use it like for lamp oil and medicinal purposes, but it was never like a big thing. Okay, it was never a big. It just was there, and then, boom, it clicked, and here we are today, right? Those technologies, you could have underestimated them and still benefited from them, right? Underestimating AI and underestimating the ambitions of people like Elon Musk. Again, a lot of people have problems with Elon Musk. I look at him, Sam Altman, clinically. I don't really feel anything about Elon Musk beyond his technology. I am a fan of the technology. Sam Altman, he gives me a bad vibe, to be quite honest with you. But I try to overlook that and just look at him clinically. But Altman, Bezos, like, look, there was a story in the paper just yesterday about how Mark Zuckerberg's yacht was in the vicinity of a vessel that was in distress, a little teeny vessel in distress. Now, everybody knows maritime, not necessarily, well, there is maritime law that addresses this, but just common human courtesy would say, hey, look, I'm on a yacht and this little teeny boat is calling for help. Let me go over there and try to help them out. They didn't do it. They refused to do it. A cruise ship, which was further away than Mark Zuckerberg's yacht, went over. Now, I'm not suggesting that Mark Zuckerberg was on this ship, on his yacht. I'm not suggesting that at all. But what I am suggesting is that Mark Zuckerberg has created a culture around the people that work on that yacht that, no, you don't go and help out people in the street. You do not dare take this ship to assist peasantry in distress. Damn maritime law. Mark Zuckerberg has definitely created that culture, whether he was on the ship or not. All right. So I am under no illusions that these people are going to operate in a fashion outside of their personal ambitions. And I also believe that the way that the lofty lives that they lead, right, it would be nothing new. You think the Pharaoh looked at the people building the pyramid and was like, my brother? No. Okay. The Roman emperor, when he sat in his box in the Colosseum and watched the gladiatorial games, do you think that he felt a kinship with the people that he allowed to come in there to engage in bread and circus? Absolutely not. That's the whole reason that existed, because he wanted to distract them and keep them pacified with games, okay, bread and circuses. He didn't feel any kinship toward them, and these people don't feel any kinship toward us. Hey, LaShawn, how you doing? Good to see you. Great to see you, actually. LJ says, Elon's tech will be used for evil. Elon himself is evil. I don't give a shit. I'll just go and say it. With a few good things he's done, LJ has strong feelings there. And look, every technology is used for either good or evil. I can't think of one technology. The wheel can be used to build an ambulance, or it can be used to have a getaway car run away from a bank after an armed robbery. Okay? Every technology is susceptible to being used for good or evil. Steak knife, wonderful invention. Okay, need I say more? Nuclear power, light your city, or light your city on fire with you in it. LJ says, I tried to watch that movie, Vanilla Sky. The start was slow and I lost interest. Maybe I should try watching it again. I hear that from a lot of people. And look, you're right. It was slow in the beginning. But I just thought the concept was pretty cool. I appreciate that, Alex. Alex says, you would be a better philosophy professor than a lot of professors. I've had a lot of people tell me I should go and try to get an adjunct professor position at one of the colleges. But look, let's just be honest, guys. I would tell, they say that in relation to history, because I'm like a real history buff. There are books like all over the floor here. This is the one space in our house that my wife just stays away from. Okay. It's junky in here with my books, and I've got like a lot of stuff from NASA over there that are like maps and things of the moon, and so I'm really into history and philosophy, right? People say you should get an adjunct professor position at a college doing history. While I would love to do that, they'd have me out of there quick, fast, in a hurry, because I am not going to lie about history. Most of history is not attractive, but in order to learn from it, we gotta be honest about it, right? So who knows? Maybe one day. I'm glad you're catching us live. Okay, so I wanted to let's play this. Let me see if I still got my okay, got that. So that's good. Let's play this. This gentleman, they call him the godfather of AI. He says we have no idea what's coming. Why am I playing this stuff? Because these are people that are inside. All right. This is not just Tyrone, who's watched one too many Star Trek episodes. No, these are people that have actually worked on these AI applications.
Am I right in thinking this sort of industrial revolution played a role in replacing muscles?
Yes, exactly.
And this revolution in AI replaces intelligence, the brain.
Yeah. So mundane intellectual labor is like having strong muscles, and it's not worth much anymore.
So muscles have been replaced. Now intelligence is being replaced.
Yeah.
So what remains?
Maybe for a while, some kinds of creativity. But the whole idea of superintelligence is nothing remains. These things will get to be better than us at everything.
So what?
All right, let me stop him right there. Because again, I thought extensively about this. I would love for this. Not, I'd actually love to wake up tomorrow morning and AI not be a thing. Okay. But people, it's not going to take jobs. It's going to create jobs. Whatever happened to the elevator operator? We had an elevator operator as late as the 1990s, the early 90s in Baltimore. He was the last elevator operator. And I had the great honor of riding on that elevator because there was a law office that I was interning for in that building. And I had the great honor of experiencing that, right? But to be honest with you, it was an inconvenience because he took up a space in the elevator, and it was a small elevator. And it was romantic to have him, the gate and all, and it goes up and all that, and he pulls a lever. Great. But where's the elevator operator today? Gone, thanks to technology. There are not as many bank tellers. Remember when, this is dating me. I've had these experiences that I think are great. Maryland National Bank. They used to have this bank downtown that was, this bank had marble floors, big granite columns, Sistine Chapel-like paintings on the ceiling, Art Deco everywhere. Oh, man, that was back when I didn't have two nickels to rub together. And I used to get paid on Fridays, but my boss knew that I was broke. She would give me my check on Thursdays. And it was written on Bell Atlantic, so they would cash it because they knew that they were good for the money. But when I took that $275 check into that bank, that bank made me feel like I had $1 million in my pocket because it was so ornate. There were tellers lined up. Oh man, they had a lot of tellers, right? This is before the ATM really became ubiquitous, but it was at the end of the grandiose bank building. The building itself, the bank was the consumer-facing end of the bank was on the first floor. You walk right in. But they had this high-rise building. My grandmother had seen somebody jump from that building. She'd seen that happen. Back, I was not born, but back in the day. Anyway, that bank, you walk in and made you feel like you were on top of the world, right? Even with my little $200 some odd dollar paycheck. And they were like, at that time, there were like 15 tellers. And the counter was marble. It's great. Now you walk into a bank. How many tellers are there? Why? Because you don't have to deal with a human being. You can deal with depositing money or taking money out. All I need is the ATM machine. So, yeah, go ask the auto workers in Detroit. Go ask one of the retired auto workers in Detroit who started out maybe in the 70s. How many folk were there building the Buick? And they'll tell you, oh, it was a lot. And then go look at an assembly line today, and you're going to see a lot of robots. And quite frankly, a lot of the humans that are there simply because the union has been able to protect their jobs. But they could be automated out. People underestimate this AI. I don't think any job is safe. Oh, look what we do. We got a client right now. We're writing a group of policies for their employees. Okay. I'm under no illusions that can be automated to AI one day, soon. Okay. Oh, but be a plumber or HVAC. My father used to own his own HVAC business. Did very well for himself. He's like, oh, AI can't do HVAC. I said, the hell it can't. I saw a robot do a backflip and a somersault, look like he was on the Olympics. I know damn well it can replace a filter or a compressor if they can make it do that. And I told my father, I said, I want you to try to duplicate what that robot did in terms of that somersault. You're going to break every bone in your body. And it might even work out where I'm collecting insurance. So I'm not underestimating anything, simply because a lot of people, especially in the tech industry, a lot of people, I can tell they're kept awake at night over this because it's scary, right? Where's everybody going to work? But then that begs another question of, all right, if nobody's working anywhere, who the hell's buying the products from these companies? I don't think they thought that through yet, amazingly, unless there is another mechanism at work that we're not yet seeing, right? Guys, I want to also say here that the content on the channel, the channel has never been big in terms of views. The channel has relied consistently upon you, okay? And I really appreciate that. We got a small audience, and we're going to continue to have a small audience. But as I look at the world, okay, and why do I say we're going to continue to have a small audience? Because I'm not going to do the things that, I'm not after views. I'm after sharing my ideas, okay? If views come, great. My ideas being out there, that's what I want. So there's a lot of doom and gloom in the world today. Doom and gloom does very well. If you want views, doom and gloom does well. The channel had talked a lot about politics in the past, strife, adverse issues. I want to move beyond that. I don't know how successful it's going to be, but again, it's not like I'm in danger of going from 100,000 views to, 100 views. So we don't have to worry about that. We have nothing to lose, right? So you've seen over the past few days, the uploads have kind of been a little different here. We're talking about the future, technologies, being honest. I am a Republican. I'm not going to agree with everything the Republicans do. I'm not going to disagree with everything the Democrats do. I agree with Bernie Sanders taking on this issue and trying to raise awareness around what the ramifications for AI. Independent, whatever the hell he is, okay, fine. I don't have to go out and have a beer with him. I can't agree with him on this issue. So, for example, we did a video on how Tesla's Terafab has the potential to lower tensions between China and the United States over the whole semiconductor issue. This morning, I put up a video. Let's see how this video is doing. It's been up for a few hours. Not the most popular video, but I think it's interesting. We're talking about how Silicon Valley is engaging in biohacking to try to slow aging. And I mentioned in that video, you know, the threat of this being something that is monopolized by the wealthy. There was a movie that Justin Timberlake was in. It was all about these classes of society that have been built based on how much time you had left to live. I got to remember the name of that because that's another great film. It gets the creative juices and it gets you thinking, right? Day after tomorrow. Because I've tried to put more information and more quality, more value in these videos. So it's not just me talking. We have some real hardcore information in the videos going forward. So I'm not in a position time-wise to be able to produce them as often. Okay. And so I'm doing like one every other day. It might go to video twice a week, but I think it's going to be so information and I think it's going to be so dense dense in terms of the intellectual, philosophical, economic information we're providing that really doing more than, you know, doing one every day is not going to be needed. You know, I want to talk about some big issues with you guys. I want you guys to weigh in. LJ shared her feelings with me about Elon Musk in a comment earlier this week. I'm open to hearing these things, okay? I'm not this guy that thinks everybody around me needs to see the world the way I do, or, you know, otherwise, no, that's not me. So there's some really big things going on in the world today. Things that, like several people have said here, can go either way, right? Could go both ways, evil and good. We got nuclear bombs sitting in silos right now. We got nuclear reactors providing power right now. Somewhere there's a fool that just robbed a bank, like it's the old West, and they're in a car, they're heading toward Mexico, as if Mexico doesn't have an extradition treaty with the United States of America. Some fool is doing that right now. And meantime, there is another individual that is using the car to Uber people and make a little money and being productive. Okay, so there are a lot of technologies, philosophies, different economic ideas that we're on the cusp of something big. It's very hard for individual humans with an 80-year lifespan, roughly, to realize when they're in a moment, right? Especially nowadays when you got the media coming at you with all types of inane, total BS, right? And it soaks up oxygen, okay? So I want to do something a little different. I want to talk about these developments that are going on Thursday, or is it Thursday? Yeah, Thursday, the video will talk about, the uploaded video will talk about the end of money. How's that going to happen? We talk about the end of money, how that will look. Is humanity even ready for that? Are we mature enough as a species to have that happen? And there's something there that will precipitate that occurring. And we talk about that in the video. So I'm just asking humbly to continue to support what we're doing over here. We're trying to be a little different and just get people thinking about the things that matter. And if you think that there's something we should be taking a look at, let me know. This is not a one-way street, okay? Deb says, all of advancement is for the love of money, not humanity. I think some people start out, like there's a guy out there, that free energy guy. I think most the way our system is set up. It's funny you mentioned that too, Deb, because that next upload we do is going to talk about that. Why we do what we do and what that looks like after money. What's the motivation after money? Good point you brought up, Deb. All right, guys. So, Deb says, I love your chat. Insight, fairness of opinion. Well, I'm glad you're here. YouTube doesn't love our channel. But okay, that's fine. I will leave you guys with this. Tonight, I'm going to have a lamb vindaloo. It's a spicy Indian dish. We're going to have some of the non-bread, NaAN bread with it. We got this apricot chutney thing. Well, Tyrone, why does this guy talk about food so much? I just think, God gave us taste buds for a reason, right? And I think food, the preparation of it, the consumption of it, I honestly think on a human level, it goes far beyond survival, right? Now, I think y'all are going to laugh at this. I think the worst thing about prison, when I see people sentenced to prison, especially people of means, like Sean Combs is in prison right now, right? I always think about, damn, the food's going to be terrible. Now, I used to tell this to my friends, what about the food? Oh, you got a lot more worried about in prison than the food. But the food, right? How can that guy, I guess you want to live, you have to, right? Go from the finest taste, aromas, and textures where food is concerned to eating like, they get the roast beef with the rainbow in it. Means it's almost bad. Little Hug juice. I hate those. They always left me with like an itchy feeling in the back of my throat. Like, I don't like these. Okay? All the kids were supposed to drink it, right? Food is like a real indicator of security, of accomplishment, especially nowadays when ground beef is, my God, like almost delicacy prices, right? She makes her own naan. Okay, I need to learn how to do that. We get it from Trader Joe's. They got it this frozen and just put it in the oven for a couple of minutes. But in any event, guys, lamb vindaloo, apricot chutney with naan bread, rice, okay, tonight. And an ice cold, I actually might drink, I have an Indian beer that would make sense with tonight's meal. So I'll do that. In any event, guys, thanks for hanging out. Hit the like button if you haven't already, and I will talk to you soon.